teacher. And
I
so, yeah.
forgot. Hello.
Hello, hello. How are you? Oh my
Good
gosh, happy
morning.
day.
We got 100 subscribers last night.
Ooh, busy night last
I
night, huh?
know. We finally hit, we got 100 subscribers. And one of the things that does is it does unlock an algorithmic thing.
Right.
So automatically some of our videos will be seen more. So it's just really cool. So if you guys are watching or listening, go on YouTube and subscribe. It really helps us.
Yes, go subscribe, really.
And if you leave a comment or a question, we're going to get them and we're going to answer them. So
That's right. And if it's bad,
join
we're going to
us.
go get you too. No, just
That
kidding.
that like the rain crawl through. Hello, love first, wisdom second.
That's right. Yeah.
They're like,
Oh, I
what is
love it.
going
That's
on?
right. We'll interfere with
Well,
your Alexis. We'll be going, you need
God,
to sign up YouTube.
weird thing about that. I've had these Google Homes now for probably 8 years,
Mhm.
and I just keep moving on them with me. I've never plugged them in once. I just don't know why. I never did. And then now you showed me, or you told me about what happened with you.
Oh, yeah. Called me out by name and never would speak to me. And ever. And yeah,
That's so
basically
unique.
reprimanded me. So I was like, no, I don't think we're going to do that. And it's so funny. Brian went with a pair of scissors. He walked over to it, didn't think twice, just cut the wires and said, guess no more Google.
I love that. I
I
love
was
that
like,
about him.
wow, thank you. But we do have Alexis now. She's a little better behaved.
Good.
Every now and
Bezos
then,
got it right.
exactly. It's so funny because every now and then she'll shout out, I don't know. I don't have the answer to that. And I'm like, that's a good thing because we didn't ask you anything.
That is, well, there's now stories coming out of certain negative energies naming themselves through AI.
Through it. Well, I'm very cautious about AI. I know there's a lot of people out there that are very gun ho about it. I'm just probably not one of them. I know that my
Right.
office is going to be all AI. The entire building is going to be AI in August, and it just is a little unnerving to me. You know,
Does it feel different in there?
and well, right now it's kind of depressing because it's so quiet. You
Mm-hmm.
can it's quiet, but you can hear an echo. There's
Mm-hmm.
an echo. And so that's because there's nothing on the walls anymore and around. So it
Somehow
is what
that's
it is.
relieving.
Well, it's always good for a change. I don't
Yeah.
have a problem with change mostly. I mean, yeah, I can say that live on air, but I also can say, outside of that, sometimes it scares the hell out of me. But
Yes.
it does, and it really does sometimes. And so, I've had a couple people this morning even reach out. Shout out to Lulu. I know you listen to us. Thank you. I'm going to stop by. I'll call you, text you, reach out to you, see about your space. I wish you could just take the building and move a little closer to Richardson. Hey, I get you. I feel you. But, it is what it is. It's coming along as best as coming along is going to be. But more than anything, please don't forget, I am there till July 31st.
Yes. Yes.
I'm a
Yes. Yes.
diehard, right? I'm the last of the, well, I don't know what, but I'm the last of the somethings.
Well, in all fairness, you were also the first.
Well, that's exactly right. Hi, baby. Alistair, you wanted to see what Mama's doing. That was
Now that I have a
perfect.
chair big enough for this
Yes.
BS.
Hello, Alistair. Welcome to the podcast. You charming soul, you. Look at you. Hi, baby. You don't remember me, but I remember you.
He's got a short memory,
He
I think.
does. And that's okay. That's okay. I do too. That's what people are telling me more and more lately. What? What did you say? It's all good. But you're right. Going back to, I was the first to arrive. I am the last to leave. I guess I'm stubborn
Mm-hmm.
that way.
Or
And
dedicated. They always say first one in, first one out, or last one out.
oh, I like that. It is dedication. I love what I do, and I cannot lie.
And
I love what I do, and I cannot lie.
I love it. Oh my
It's
God.
gonna be great.
I was literally, I was trying to remember the lyric of that because I'm a nerd and I'm always texting people stupid stuff. And I was trying to say, I can't wait to hang with ya and take your picture from that song. But
Oh
I
my!
couldn't remember it. And then I was like, is it even funny anymore if I have to Google these lyrics? They're the most simple lyrics ever.
That sounds like my humor. I'm like, just a minute. I'm gonna mispronounce this. Let me check.
Yes. One moment, please hold.
One moment.
Oh my
Pause for a
God.
moment.
Well, I wanted to tell you about something that happened last night.
Please do. Yes. Yes.
Because as you know, we try to keep it pretty raw and real. I called you the other day. I'm going to engage in some stuff with my family that's
Yep.
not great.
Right.
And I was really struggling with whether that was a great idea or not. And as you know, I was kind of seeking your blessing on like, am I messed up in the head for wanting to go do this? And then you were so sweet and you kind of were very, very supportive and just said, hey, do what you need to do, da da da. But the weirdest thing is, yesterday, I was literally laying in bed all day. I probably actually got out of the bed at 2 p.m. because I just slept in.
Right.
And couldn't figure out if I was going to go to trivia or not because I hadn't texted anybody. I had no plans for it. But I did know that one of the regulars up there would probably say yes if I hit him up.
Right.
So finally, I'm like, all right, you know what? I need to get out of my house. I need to get out of my bed. I go do it. And I get there and I'm setting up. It's like really full. I don't notice anybody. I'm kind of embarrassed because it's a little bit late anyway. So I go and since I work there, I go and get a table folded out for Ryan and I get 2 chairs. And then Ryan's got this unruly dog that I kind of love. And so he's there and out of nowhere, what's that?
He wanted to play too.
Yeah, well, and Ryan's trying to get rid of this dog, and I was like, I can't have a dog, but he's so smart. He's such a smart ant. Like I can just feel it.
Don't get a dog, please.
I won't.
No dog for you, not right now. Please.
I won't. I promise. Talk about a manic decision. No, but so then right directly, like I could reach out and touch this table, but this energy, his back's to me. I see this little blonde chick tatted up, and I notice the boyfriend, and then I just move on. Well, then I'm doing something. I'm going and getting treats for Ryan because there was a wedding buyout. So I knew there's some gourmet treats in there and maybe some barbecue.
Right,
so I'd go over and cut across and then go get that. And that in somewhere in all that like hubbub of me getting my table, all that. So then out of nowhere, I hear Sophie. And no one calls me that. And it's Mr. Metcalf, who is just, I mean, I European history teacher, like got us to, I remember our final was playing a game called not Risk, but oh man, it was so cutthroat. It was our final too, and it was renowned through the high school that if you took this class that's really really hard, at least at the end you would have like 6 weeks where the whole class just played a game. But it was like kind of messed up because you could negotiate outside the classroom. Like once the class was over, that didn't really mean the game was over, and people would backstab. It was just crazy, but just so many good memories to the point where he's on my wall.
I love
so there's like you, Brian, like some friends that I don't talk to anymore, and then Mr. Metcalf and me at homecoming, and he was also the one who I confided with about the sexual abuse stuff. But I didn't know, I had no idea, because you're young, that they have to tell. And so then that's what began the relationship I had with Miss Robbins, who was my crisis counselor at Colleyville, who I wound up later going and meeting with at IHOP, because at one point I wanted to become a crisis counselor, which ironically, it's kind of like what we do now.
Doing it now.
And so it's the most crazy full circle moment. And what was really sad was, after I left home, I guess my mom and dad, or my mom, blew him up and like I don't know the details. I only know it from her side, but basically asked if like he had been inappropriate. Like there were just, making, I wasn't even around anymore. And so I never got to say I'm sorry about that and the fact that she was involved in that way. And I certainly didn't bring it up last night, but it was amazing. And now he has this huge arm sleeve, which was, I had worn a workout shirt, which a lot of my workout shirts, my back is cut out. And so then he was like, I love your tattoo. Like, and he has the story of the koi. I don't even know what that was, but I guess it goes up a mountain and then meets all these energies. And then when he's done and he gets to the mountain, the gods turn him into a dragon. So he said, when I retire, he's going to go get that. So it was just like, hey, I met his wife. I met his daughter. I was like, just so you know, ever since I've known this man, he's obsessed with y'all. He has 2 kids, 2 daughters.
Oh my gosh.
So it was just crazy. It was so nice.
So perfect timing.
Yeah. Wow. What a validation.
Timing.
And we didn't really talk about anything, obviously, but what was so awesome was at the end, by the way, he said they come there twice a month at least doing trivia. Never seen them before there. I've worked there now 3 months, so timing is really interesting.
Yes, it is. You were meant to be there last night. That's
why
I get up Your guide said, "Come on, let's go. Let's do
Oh
this."
man, I just was like blown away. And then at the end I gave him a big hug and we were just like, well, we'll be seeing each other. And he goes, uh, it's just and you don't yeah, he just said, it's really nice when it works out. And I looked at him, I was like, and it was dicey for a while. And he says, I very dicey. So that was really the only acknowledgement we had about the past,
Right.
but so healing. Like I don't know
Wow,
even
that
why.
is so amazing. Well, because it was a topic of conversation. You were, you've been dealing with this week. And
Yeah.
so for him, someone from the past who really was a supportive person to you shows up out of
Mhm.
nowhere.
Man.
Shows up out of nowhere.
I know, as though we don't know. Oh
Air
my
quotes,
god.
right? Then we recognize that something is working on our behalf.
So often we spend so much time pointing out these moments in other people's lives because
Yes,
we
we
can
do.
see them and other people don't,
Right.
sometimes in their own world,
Yes.
but it was just undeniable. And I couldn't even I was so in shock. Like I didn't know, his family's there. And but at one point, I had just sent a photo to this guy I was talking to of my bedroom desk being done, which has that wall. And I go, Mr. Metcalf. And he's like, it's Ben now. It's like, I could never be Ben. It's always going to be Mr. Metcalf. But I said, this is going to be really creepy. But like, this wall's very important to me. And it's like really grainy, but I zoomed in. I'm like, that's you. He's like, it is creepy, but I love you. Like, he was just very, very, very,
And for all our listeners out there, no, this isn't the wall from CSI, okay?
no,
These are
no, no,
not
no.
hit
I have
lists.
a picture wall in my room. That's so funny. Right. So before I go to jail, no,
Yeah, take these pictures down, please. No,
right. But yeah, so that was just fun. That was so, so fun
that
and
is
nice
really cool. I
and
love
somehow
that.
validating.
And you needed some validation based on what you had been dealing with. You needed some validation. You needed someone to step up from the past and say, "I got you."
Mm,
And that's what he
mm,
was for you. Was
yeah.
he had you? Yeah.
And I think about pseudo like father figures a lot of the times. And because, for all that my dad was, he was very, very silently supportive. Like it, but there was not a lot of, you were definitely not feeling like you had a masculine male figure in the house necessarily. And so with Mr. Metcalf, he doesn't give off a bravado of any kind,
Right.
but it's
That's
almost
good.
just this certainty of like, but it's going to be my way.
Right.
Like, and I'm
Right.
not going to be unreasonable,
The silent
but
strength. I love that.
yeah,
Yes.
I don't know. I just love that man. It was fun to see him.
I'm so glad you did. You needed that. You needed an uplift from your
Thank you.
weekend and from your week.
Yeah. Well, and there's more to do, but I've been good about not letting, not introducing vices, not playing too many on the edge games. I have a coworker right now I wanted to share with you. I keep getting this feeling that she is courting death instead of choosing the future. And she has now wrecked her car 3 times since I've worked there, I've worked there 3 months.
Pretty substantial.
And it's under the influence at least the last 2 times. And I remember thinking, I don't know that there wasn't a time where I wasn't living on that precipice of choice of, well, I don't
Right.
want to choose the future because it's scary and I don't trust myself with it. So maybe I'll just ignore and do chaotic things and do potentially mortal things, while not being so on the nose as being of the mindset of suicidality. We think about how much people hurt, and suicidality doesn't always look like I'm willing to do this. Maybe sometimes it just looks like I'm willing to ride the edge of living, and
Exactly
maybe
to
I
see where
won't.
it takes me. Right. I won't make it a definitive decision nor choice because I don't want to be responsible for the outcome, but I'll live according to the riskiness of it and see what happens.
Well,
And
and
that's
there
a dangerous, dangerous slope.
I was thinking of this when I took my trash out the other day. I wanted to ask you, is that in some ways absolution? Because it is technically a little bit more of an unconscious driver as opposed to a conscious decision.
Well, it begins as a conscious decision and then floods into the unconscious, the subconscious, excuse me. Well, she will be unconscious if she keeps this up,
Yeah.
unfortunately. The thing about it is I do feel sometimes that people put themselves in such risky behavior so that they can validate to themselves their unworthiness in the moment. And so I feel like she's doing a little bit of self-evaluating. Unfortunately, she's looking at it from the standpoint of, well, to hell with it. I'll just do whatever, and the decision will be made by the circumstances. And
But
that's a
in
real risky place
sobriety,
for her.
I'm sorry.
That's a real risky place for her because I do feel a lot of dark energy around her.
Well, and again, nobody, if she listens, I think this would actually be beneficial, but I don't believe she will because she doesn't know the name of the podcast. But
Well,
um,
and you're there again. You don't need to rescue anyone, but
no.
maybe perhaps just by setting the example you set and in the way that you word things will help her to see that, what, nothing's ever really truly over. You've got to get back on the saddle, back in the race, whatever you want to call it, and do the best. And I feel that she's just not seeing any reward for her efforts, so that's why she's taken a darker turn.
Well, I think that, and I'm very, very, very familiar with this, and I think that maybe it's not spoken about enough, where in one hand, you can hold your ethics and your beliefs about what's right and your desire to be all of those things in one hand. And sometimes it feels like as the times continue to become tougher, it almost feels like your steadiness of grip starts to
Mm-hmm.
shift.
Sure.
The worst aspect about that is as you literally watch the sand of what you believe you should be, what you hope to think about yourself is true, falls through, then there's not really, if we don't know how to replenish that, which is incredible. Self-esteem in and of itself is not hard to replenish in the way, but most people don't know how to do it. And so then what do you fill up with? And I think with her, and with a lot of people, and with me, it used to be just a massive amount of numbing out, a massive amount of leaving the body.
Disassociation from the trouble.
But the worst part is, like, once your car's messed up, once these things occur, you still wake up looking at the hand. Like, you
Right.
can't.
You can't run away from it.
No, and it's the worst feeling ever. But the beautiful aspect of it is that they're kind of going a couple different ways with it. One of the benefits is, typically speaking, we all do have a rock bottom. Like, we usually
Yes.
do have a floor we will not penetrate through.
Right. I agree with that.
Sometimes we just have to get there.
Sometimes we do have to get there. And the thing about it too, we think, well, why don't you just change, right? Why don't you stop drinking, stop driving the car, stop. Well, again, we can look at all bad mistakes and all choices that don't bring, a good outcome, but more to our detriment. We could see those on some level, as an addiction of sorts. If one is quitting smoking, one will talk about it and think about it and finally either do it or not do it. Okay? This woman, this person you're speaking of, she knows these choices are very ill planned, but she's in a state of mind where she's either going to keep doing it or she's going to stop doing it. So it's kind of formed an addiction in her energy. So it's no different than quitting smoking, or for her.
And she's literally trying to
drinking.
quit smoking right now. That's why you're picking up
That's
on
why
that.
I'm picking up
But
on
she
it.
did not. She was unsuccessful.
Again, so we've got a young woman who's really got three forms of addiction. They're all feeding off from each other. They're all causes of each other, from each other. I mean, she's addicted to alcohol. She's addicted to cigarettes, and she's probably an adrenaline junkie. And so these are hot spots. These are things that are difficult to overcome. And you just take one of those things, and most people can spend their lifetime trying to figure out how to overcome it. So now her whole life is kind of with a big X across it. And that's kind of the way she's treating it. Like, what the hell? I've already just screwed it all up. What am I going to do now? Now we know she still can be rescued. Her guides can help her. Her friends can help her. She's got to be the one to stand tall enough to do that, though.
Absolutely. Well, and
she's not ready for that yet.
No, and I remember, but you're not ready. This is so true what you just said. If you're not ready to enact any change, it's really challenging to because again, you're already denying all that you already know.
Yes,
it's not new news for someone to tell you, hey, you should probably get it together when your vehicle is falling apart. And I've been there. Like, exactly. You know what I mean? I'm not above this conversation. But it's also like, once you do hit rock bottom, maybe several times, in my case, in different ways, it does inform you, at least as you trend down there again, you know where the handholds are.
Right. There you
It's
go.
always an option to go down there. And it sometimes shocks me how remembered the path down is. But then you kind of know, okay, well, shoot, if I go all the way down there, it's going to take me 3 weeks to get back to normal. I could just hold on really, really hard, not drink tonight, not do whatever tonight, and just hold on through the discomfort for like one night. And more often than not, that's enough to not have you drop all the way down to the bottom,
Exactly.
bottom, bottom.
Exactly. But it's hard, it's easy for us in many ways to say these things and to share tidbits of advice and try to help you formulate your own plan. But the real work comes from within. And you've got to be prepared to make those changes so that you can grab those little holes in the wall heading back up.
The other night, I had a moment where I'd finished cleaning my house. I've been getting my place together several different ways, several different
Mm-hmm.
times, but it soothes me, I think. And so uh, I was trying to go down the path of woe is me, and I could feel myself wanting to do it. And I could feel my energy be weepy. And I noticed it because whenever I'd see certain videos online, I would be weepier than normal. So I knew I had some stuff simmering. And of course. But then I asked myself, and I think, thank God for the classes that I've been doing, because as you speak it out to other people, it's really hard to pull the bullshit after
Yes. Right.
and I was asking myself, what do you need from this? Like what benefits you to go and feel about how you've been wronged in these ways? Obviously that's true. Obviously we acknowledge the ways that it is, but what's pulling you there tonight? And it was through asking that question that I was able to kind of not go there.
Good.
And because it just didn't make sense. Like the cost of going there, I would be crying. I already know how this looks. And I can feel my heart wanting it for some reason to soothe or to get it out. And it wasn't really a cry for alcohol or any of the vices. I wanted to go marinate in being sad. But then it was just like, well, I think that's a pattern from the past, because logically it doesn't fit my narrative anymore. But you do have to sit there and decide. I had to sit there and decide, are we going to go do this tomorrow? My eyes are going to be super puffy. Like nothing's going to change because these things can't change. Like, I just don't know, and that was able to, I was like, I'm just going to turn some TV on and try to move on.
I love it. You found your distraction. You needed a distraction and you found it.
Well,
That's a healthy one.
but more than the distraction element for me, it was the like quizzing myself of, what do you need from this? There's nothing, you can go there, but what you bring back isn't going to be anything super like valuable. And that's kind of hard because
It is hard. It's very, very hard. I'm proud of you for doing that, for recognizing and assessing the situation and coming up with a more positive outcome. And
they just,
I'm right there with you. I'll tell you when I have to make a conscious effort. Do I really want to cry or not cry? Because for
mm,
me, I wake up the next day and I can't see. My
yeah,
eyes will just be swollen.
clothes.
It's terrible. And then it'll be like, and then it's even worse because people are like, "Oh my God, what's wrong with you?" And you're like, "Oh my gosh, I've
You
already
just say
dealt with it. Don't
allergies.
worry." Allergies, yes, a lot of allergies. And then I think, was that really worth it? Did I
That's,
really want that?
I guess that goes into, and I've talked about this a lot lately, especially, but like the dominion of emotions. Like each emotion terminates in a certain way, or it tries to. And I guess rage probably terminates in an outburst.
Typically,
Grief terminates in an outburst of tears. So I guess every version of it,
but it can
happiness,
overlap too. It can
well,
overlap
and
each
then
other.
humor and joy usually comes out as laughter, or like yeah, autonomic things, smiling, laugh, like. But please don't, sir. He's coming back for round 2.
Oh, I bet he likes that chair. He's like, "It's my chair, Mama."
Listen, I'll knock him off so fast on camera. I don't care.
He's a sweet baby.
Okay, all right. Now you look. How are you winning?
He's
This
winning.
is
He's
how.
winning the show. Everybody is now watching because of Alistair. Thank you, sweetie. Are you our new publicist? I love you.
He's a cutie.
He is adorable.
But it's and what I kind of love though trending lately, and I think this is probably because a lot of boomers and millennials that have had kids drank, but there's like a dry generation coming up.
That's okay.
I
That's
love
okay.
that.
I do too. I do too. They'll save the vineyards for me. I'm the nicer ones.
That's correct.
Just kidding. Okay.
Well, no, I mean, like, it's going to be interesting what it does to that market.
Well, that's true. It will certainly, yeah, turn that market in a direction that we haven't seen, and good or bad. But the bottom line is, I like the fact that people are using other forms of soothing, other forms of finding kind of a balance.
Mm-hmm.
We recognize that people can consume to the point of having an addiction with that and a lot of other things, and that's when we run into trouble. So again, it's kind of it's we're right in the thick of it with you all. Just so all of our
Yes.
listeners know, I don't know if you're aware of it, listeners, but we are too also very human and
Mm-hmm.
very much in the same boat as you sit sometimes. And with that said, we have challenges, we have things we have to sort through, and
Mm-hmm.
these challenges, you're never too old to to sort through the challenges, and you're never too old to experience the pain of the past. People will say, well, get over it, it was 40 years ago. Well, okay, thank you for your sage advice. It doesn't really mean shit, but thank you. Because it really, again, you're never too old to suffer, and I mean that from a standpoint of, if you haven't resolved something in your life, it doesn't matter if you were 5 when it happened and you're now 55. That's going to come up in another way. It's going to come up through a different method, maybe a more intellectual one, or maybe not necessarily, but you'll have something that will be the effect from it has caused something in your life to go awry, that one thing that you haven't dealt with. And again, sometimes it's very subtle, but other times it's not.
So this is a curious aspect of what we've been through and what, you and I recognize as challenging. And one of the most freeing things you've ever shared with me was your sleep patterns and how they still mirror some BS from your childhood. And there's a very good chance that you will die with that pattern and I will die with my insomnia. There's just a reality where certain things can affect your brain and certain things can affect your body composition around cortisol releases, and I've read a lot
Absolutely.
about this trying to prove to myself I'm okay.
Right.
But the reality is, you know, if and I think about this a lot in terms of dating, frankly, because I think about like, God, what it will require to share the way I am. And I know that sounds really dark, but I love who I am in a lot of ways. I think I offer a
Yes,
lot.
you do. You absolutely do.
And I
And
have
I
some
do understand
isms.
what you're saying. Well, we all have
And so
issues.
then as we move forward in time, I don't ever want to be the person who is, well, I'm this way because of this. I think we have a lot of ownership responsibility
Yes,
to
we do.
manage some of that. But the most immature parts of me, the jealousies or the fear of abandonment or the preference that things are mine, because of the way that I was, that another form of abandonment. If your friends and family can sort of understand that that might be an aspect through the lens of knowing who you are and your history, but with an expectation that it be pretty minimal, given the fact that for me, at least, I'm, you know, fairly well-adjusted adult and I don't wish to harm others by articulating these childish things and then somehow that being off-putting, because the reality is those behaviors are off-putting, and so that's kind of the dance of moving forward. Is some of it may not ever be healed. Like if you want that from people, then that's a great desire. But some people that just will not be true. You could spend 100 hours, 100,000 hours in therapy, but your body remembers. And so I
Right.
think that's interesting.
It is very interesting, and I agree with that. Not everything's going to be healed, and maybe it's not designed to be that way. If we're if we consider life to be everlasting, and we consider that we come back and do things over again, maybe it takes a few lifetimes to really eradicate some of these situations from our energy. I mean, who's to say? I wish I could remember from one lifetime to another. I'm gonna do my best next time when I come back as a guide. That's my plan anyway. We'll see how that goes. But that there's such a mixed bag of tricks when it comes to trauma, because you can talk to 20 different people and you're going to get that many different answers. Therapists have a different take on it, psychologists do, psychiatrists do. And the bottom line is, who's right, who's wrong? What the science will tell you one thing, and we'll tell you perhaps something a little bit different. So it is a tricky thing to work through trauma. But what I want to share with everyone is, if you have trauma, you've got to find a place where you're at peace with it. It doesn't mean that you have forgiven or forgotten. It simply means, are you at peace with where you're at with your trauma? And if you're not, what can you do through time to make that different?
Mm.
Is it going to be easy? No. I get up in the middle of the night with a panic attack a few times a week. I know that the time is, excuse me, a panic attack. No, just kidding. I know the times are shorter now because I have intellectualized it differently now. I'm a big girl now. And so I can get myself to go right back to sleep. And so that's been my modification. That's been my way of dealing with it. Now, will I be able to completely get away from that and never have another panic attack? Short lived. They're about 5 or 10 minutes of panic, and then I'm fine. Who knows? Maybe no. Maybe for me that's good enough. You see?
Exactly. Well, yeah, I mean, that's a great, to what degree qualifies healed?
Bingo. And I agree. And you've heard me talk about my scenario of the sea ripper. When I teach my
Yes.
shamanic journeys, when we go to the lower worlds to help us to heal and to put things aside that we no longer need or we can't work with right now, so we'll set them aside temporarily. Even there's a school of thought that you go in and you just rip apart all your shadows. And the bottom line is, you are who you are because you had shadows.
Mm.
And I'm not saying we want you tormented because you got what you get and you get what you got. We just simply mean, which ones need to be gone. Maybe you're really a good person because you had those issues that you had to endure.
And that is not what you wanna hear sometimes, but that
No.
is so true. Like your empathy, or like the way that you are conscientious, these things come from sometimes.
Well, and I'm gonna bring this up just because this was a perfect. And nobody will ever really know another person. You can't unless you walk in their shoes. And there's no real way of doing that unless you're size 8, and then you can borrow mine. But really, realistically, we can't walk into other people's energies. We try as an intuitive. We try to help them. We try to reach to them in a different, more soul level. So in some instances, we can get a little further. Okay. But more than anything, you cannot make 100% critical decision or suggestion to a human soul, because you're not their blueprint and they're not yours.
Mm.
It goes back to the snowflakes, right? No
Mhm.
snowflakes are the same. So we can help, we can get a pretty good feel for it. But I had someone that, because I've had some medical issues this year, healthy as a horse for 60 years. And then boom, this year it's like, hello, we're going to screw you up. So that's okay, because that's because they're not done screwing me up, but they're working on it to fix it. I've got all these construction signs out. But anyway, I had someone while I was working, when I first got back from my shoulder surgery, I came back after 2.5 weeks and made a comment to another person who shared it with me that it was bad business for me to work while I was in pain, that I wasn't giving what I needed to give because I was in pain.
Good.
And and honestly, it kind of made my day, because what I realized is that there are a lot of people that don't use their thinkers.
Mm-mm.
Okay.
Or that they
Because
just don't understand what we do.
right. And it's the one thing that I come to now. Again, I'm not out there, working a service line. I'm not out there running around, doing construction. I have medical issues, but if I can sit in my butt and talk to people, well, hell, I'm pretty good at that. And so, getting into my groove and working with my clients and seeing outcomes actually was the best medicine I could have ever taken.
Yes.
In fact, for me, I didn't take any of the heavy hitters because I didn't need to. Because if I felt that bad, I would either take a nap or get to work.
That is such, I thought that was insane how well you managed that
Well,
with no hard drugs.
and again, Could I have done it? Oh, heck yeah. I mean, I could have had Partyville, right? I could have turned on some Netflix, and I could have just, this, and this. But,
Yes.
but obviously that wasn't in my best interest anyway. But my point of that is it didn't make any sense to come in with the seam ripper and just take me apart so I could suffer and feel sorry for myself and I could wallow in it and I could bitch about it and I could do all these things, right? Now, if I needed to, I would do that anyway. Just don't answer your phone when it gets like that. But my point being is this person was harsh, judging me on the fact that I actually was working with pain, not recognizing that the work I do is the most incredible pain reliever one could ever have.
Exactly.
And yeah, and I'm not even in this body half the time I'm talking to people anyway.
That's what I mean. Yeah, and that's right why it's a medicine, and also too why it doesn't matter what the vessel is going through for these messages.
No, it doesn't. And really and truly, if you love what you do, you know exactly what I mean. If this is what you want to love to do, it's being more intuitive, being more connected, whether it's mediumship, astral, whatever the heck it is you feel you want to create, by gosh, do it. Work towards it. Work towards a happy place for yourself. That's so important.
In the name of the sort of healing from trauma in non-direct ways, which is I'm a big believer of that. I'm a big believer of interjecting, like for instance, this is something that I was thinking about the other day. Imagine carrying around like a small puzzle or just a deck of cards that has numbers. But, when you're starting to feel chaotic in the world, the vibration of bringing something in order, no matter how small, can create momentum. And so then you can just sit there and say, I just feel completely disordered. Pull out whatever that you just have that you can start putting into order. And before you know it, that's all you need is the vibration of being successful, of doing it. It doesn't matter that it's a small thing. It matters
Yes.
that you're doing it.
Bingo. I love that. Yes.
There was a pattern from a young age, and it's still true today. And I may cut this, I may not, I'm not sure, but it pertains to this, where I used to read a lot of books where there was a heroine that was being pretty severely abused. And then she would always be saved, or she would save herself. And that was always a hyper fixation within literature. And now I look at it now as an adult, and I still crave that sort of that particular style. The damsel in distress narrative
Right.
is huge, but so subconscious because from a young age that was an attraction. Well, of course, and so then I think about how that was probably a band-aid on a bullet hole, but there was, as a child, there's not much more you can do, but you are living through the experience of being saved or saving yourself over and
Absolutely.
over and over again.
Absolutely.
There's probably some healing with that, or at least some
I
protection.
totally agree. Absolutely. And I was an avid reader when I was a little girl. That was the one thing I wasn't denied was I was able to read. I couldn't read school books because that was government oriented. I know they all
So
had
nutty.
them, I guess. That algebra book was really sitting on the president's desk. I'm telling
It was
you.
gonna get to you. It was gonna bend your mind.
It's gonna bend my mind. Good God. But I did see, and I read a lot of books. I didn't have access to those kind of books, but for me, I would be a participant, and I used it like the Hardy Boys and the Botsy Twins or whatever the heck those books were. And what I would find was I would try to find some type of connection to the main character, especially if there's strength involved. It's like they would get out of their mess. They would find the golden egg. They would make friends. They would do that. And so
oh my God, the bar clean that you watched during the getting into order.
Yes.
And that it could be
Bingo.
saved.
Bingo. You remembered that. I'm very impressed. That's right. That's right.
Yeah, that's so cool. It makes sense. It makes total sense.
And I can't even remember the name. What was it?
Bar rescue.
Bar rescue. Thank you. When I was healing for the first 2.5 weeks, I did. I binge watched in my chair, really all of the bar rescue. because it was about integrity and strength and changing, and people could change and situations could change, and there was power in numbers, and that if you helped other people, you helped yourself along with it. And
Mm.
so, yes, exactly. And now, did I turn on the TV and go, yes, this is my moment now to shine because I'm
No,
not at all? Exactly. I turned it on
but
and
you
went,
were
I need
integrating
it.
the energy that you needed.
Exactly.
And I think that's so powerful in comparison to, for instance, I don't have a desire to go back into therapy and dig through a lot of this because I can intellectualize. What I need to make sure I'm doing is integrating the belief that I can do this, the belief that I'm okay, that I'm safe as an adult, all of these things, because I can't, the alternative to go down those holes is a lot like the seam ripper.
It
But
is.
metaphysically
Yes, it
speaking,
is. Yep.
you have to still aid the negative chaos of the energy, but aid it through not, oh, I've forgiven what's happened, but okay,
Exactly.
what is that memory making me feel? It's typically making me feel avoidant, anxious, scared. So then
Absolutely.
that's if the input is this, then the next input must be, all right, well, I look around my apartment, I've gotten this for myself. I'm really safe. I don't go anywhere. I don't interact with anybody who's trying to control me. I don't interact with anybody who's managing or manipulating me or wishes me harm.
That's right.
That suddenly feels very different in this bedroom, you know? And I just
Totally
think
get
that
it.
that's, but it, with the reading, I think this is important because I do blame. I do acknowledge this. I would always disappear through books. And as you change from a young person into an adult, the book becomes alcohol. The book becomes cocaine. The book becomes whatever else is available that sort of is that self-soothe of, okay, there's trauma over there. How can I disappear?
Over
And
here.
I think that people beat themselves, like really good people that I've met that have really traumatic pasts. They don't understand why they struggle with these vices because they logically can't even identify with it in this way. And I always ask, did you have a blanket? Did you have a room that you would go to? Did you read a lot? What would you do to escape and how frequently? And just recognize the teddy bear turns into alcohol. Like, and obviously work with this energy, try to heal it, but understand that addiction starts to show up as a self-soothing mechanism. And it doesn't matter what you used as a kid, it just matters that you learned how to do it.
And
And
it's
so,
good that you learned to self soothe as a child, because I'm telling you, you needed that teddy bear. You
yes, oh my
needed that
God,
security
the
blanket. For me, I
books.
needed to be able to crawl under that bed. Can you see me crawling under a bed now? I never get out. You'd have to move
No,
the
but
damn
there's
bed.
still, but you can
It's,
still relate with how
yes,
nice it feels.
right. Yes,
Or, and then that
yes.
makes you feel crazy because only a certain amount of people understand that.
Well, exactly. You mentioned that people are horrified, and you're like, no, really? You think that's bad? Are you kidding me? That's where I stashed my cans of food just in case I got starved. I put it under the bed. I was
Man.
had my own little lodge under there.
Well, until they start checking under, I mean, my parents started, but I think I told you this before, they hated that I had the books as an escape, right? So when I would get grounded, I wouldn't lose, I mean, I'd lose all the TV and stuff too, but they would take all my books.
Yeah,
And so then
yeah.
but they would let me keep the Bible. So then they made a monster out of me because then I just read that. And then whenever they would try to like be religious, I'd be like, actually. And so then so they kind of shot themselves in the foot with that. But it was just one of those things where it's like, no matter how that went or whatever self soothing mechanism was removed, I often sometimes wonder, like, is that why I'm not a full fledged alcoholic? Is because eventually my self soothing was even removed. So I really had to go stand up and be,
Be who you are. Yep,
yeah,
exactly. That's
so it's like in a lot of ways, who knows?
it's fascinating. It's an amazing journey of the mind. It really is, and of the psyche and all that we're composed of. I am a firm believer. If you need therapy, go get it. No
And
judgment
I've
here.
done a lot of it.
And I love it. And I'm glad that, I mean, I have several friends that are therapists, and I'm very proud of them. And I'm proud of the friendships that I have with them. For me, it didn't work. I couldn't do it.
Hmm.
I mean, I remember when and I've said this once before in the podcast, when I sat with them, or her, it was a woman. I sat down and I was 18 years old. I just turned 18. And I just sat there and I felt sorry for her because I thought, what
Oh,
is she going to think and feel when I look at her and say, listen, my parents are serial killers and I see dead people?
yeah.
What did I just throw in her lap? First thing, she'd probably think, oh, she's under trauma, she's hallucinating, she needs to be medicated. Let's put her into a psych ward. You know what I mean? How do you come
They're
out of
like,
that?
doesn't this jacket look so cute? Why don't you try it
Why don't you try
on?
it on, and I'll give you a free ride?
Yeah.
So and I sat there, and I remember just sitting there staring at her, and she said, "Well, go on," and I'm like, "I'm not really sure this is the place I need to do this." And she said,
Yeah.
no, just say whatever it is. And in my head, I'm like, I'll never leave again. She will never let me go. And
And was
and
that the
it,
guides? Do you think
yeah,
that was
I
a
think so
legitimate
too.
outcome?
I think so too.
Yeah.
And so I thanked her very much for all her help, which really wasn't a damn thing other than the realization she couldn't do anything
Thank you for
for
your
me.
clarity.
Right. And I left and I felt better because I thought, I'll be darned. This stuff you can't just go and hand off to someone and walk away from. You
Mm-mm.
either have to figure how to put it aside, or you have to figure out how to dissect it enough that you could get rid of the real bad parts. And and I guess so far so good. I've never been to prison, and I certainly have killed anyone. So I think I'm doing okay. I think my
I
clients would
know,
agree so far so good.
but there's still time.
There's still time.
Well,
I'm a
and
little
to
slower, but that doesn't mean that I can't get to you. No,
well,
just
and
kidding.
well, maybe. No, I'm just kidding.
Maybe.
You better comment. No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah, no, yeah, exactly.
No, but and to kind of tie it off, I guess, because there's a lot of beauty in the world, and there's a lot
Tremendous amount.
of
Yes.
horrible. But so frequently, we just have to kind of grit our teeth through the moments when we feel that squeeze of like,
Yes.
oh my gosh, yeah, I'm starting to feel not great. I'm starting to remember things. I'm starting to go into like a low grade depression, whatever it is. But then also, there is a natural progression through that experience and then out of it. And I think that our only job when the squeeze is really, really tight is to our only job and our promise to a better future must then be that there's something on the other side of it. You know what I mean? Because the reality is we can never gauge how negative and how intense and how incredible a
That's
squeeze will
right.
feel.
That's
Losing a
right.
job, losing a child, losing,
That's exactly
your
right.
identity as you know it, as it must die so
Yep.
that you can be like all these things feel tragic and oftentimes overwhelmingly horrible.
Right.
But then there is only one thing when you can't see the light really is you have to there is then just the assumption that there must be, right? Every
That there must
dawn
be a light. Right.
there's got to be that there's something in if you haven't died yet. I hate to phrase it like this, but the reality really must be if you haven't died yet, there is more on your plate, there's more in your chapters, there's more in your book,
Yep.
and that's guaranteed already.
Right.
So no
Completely
matter
agree
how
with
much the
that.
squeeze is, no matter how many bottles you have already finished as you think about whether you should start the next, it's kind of like, okay, well, maybe I go finish that next bottle of vodka, but then once that's done, I think I can try to not go to the store. I can then just try to go to sleep and have faith that maybe tomorrow won't feel so hectic, so chaotic. Because eventually one day you will wake up and it won't.
Exactly. And that's exactly true. Life is meant to fill you with a lot of opportunities for growth. Sometimes the experiences that we are handed off, we don't feel like we're growing from, but being destroyed from. And
Mm,
so that's when we need to reach out and say, hey, a little helping hand here. Need someone to help me navigate the waters here because right now I feel like someone put a blindfold over me and I'm in the middle of the sea. And so it's okay to ask for help. It's okay to get help. It's okay to need help and to know that it's so right to pursue that. The most
mm-hmm,
important thing is this is the vessel you have for this lifetime. And in this vessel, many things happen, good and bad. Which ones do you prefer? If you're probably going to raise your hand, all of you for the good. I would, right? When you want that. So if that's what you really want, then go find it, go get it, go make
mm-hmm,
it happen, bring it to you. Maybe it only comes in little bite sized pieces. Maybe your definition of a happy life is different than it needs to be. Maybe happiness is seeing that the day's got sunshine and there's a butterfly that has passed by. Maybe you're
mm-hmm.
happy is that you can get out of bed and you're not hurting all over. Maybe your new happy is that for the next, hour in the morning, nobody is screaming at you, yelling at you, demanding of you, and you're going to sit and drink your hot tea or your coffee. Find the norm and the new norm for you. Find a norm. Find a place where happy is easier to obtain. If happiness is always out of reach, you will always feel short-sighted. And that's my biggest thing I see with people.
That's such you don't really you said I'll have to play that back and cut it cuz I love what you just said was amazing.
Well, that's because I'm over here. My guides are over here.
I know. When I say cut it, I mean clip it. Like I love yeah. Not cut it, not cut
Shit
it.
out. I want that.
No, 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 no. I just realized I said the wrong thing. No, I'm going to make sure that's you said when happiness is always out of reach, it's very easy to feel short-sighted. I love that.
It's so true. I have clients, and I love all my clients, even the ones that annoy the hell out of me. And you know who you are, but but the bottom line is, I have people that mourn a man or mourn a woman in this here and now, and their day is filled with it. Their only thought
Mhm.
is of this person. It's not the fact that they just did well at work, or they just got recognized for this or that, or that they've made accomplishments at home, or they bought a new vehicle they should be probably going to afford. It's about not fitting into someone else's world. And I
Mm.
see it all the time. And I hate that. It drives me crazy because I understand wanting to be, yearning to be, needing, quote, air quotes, needing to be with a certain someone. But if the circumstances aren't bringing you together, where are you? What are you doing? Where are you in your life? Are you sitting there waiting for the certain someone to just magically appear, or are you living your life alongside of these things? And I know that's still confusing, but I see it all the time. People stop their life where they are because they don't have the person in their life they want. And so they're either fantasizing about the person, because they oftentimes they already know who it is. They're fantasizing all the time about this person, and it's now interfering in all aspects of their life. They can't think clearly, they can't work clearly, they can't be home clearly, they can't do anything without these thoughts. And if you're one of those wonderful people, and I do care for you all, please, please, let's get a different dialogue in that brain. Let's get a new beginning for you in that brain.
Well, and this I just wrote it down so that I don't forget. Maybe this is like what can be our next week's topic, but I know exactly what you're referring to, and it's the issue around people who have to use someone else as a mirror of their life.
Yes.
I remember both being it and I remember receiving it. And most recently from from the framework of somebody going through what they perceived was a spiritual awakening,
Yes.
but they could not have a moment of experience without messaging me about it
Right.
because they were using me as a mirror to confirm to them that that happened in their life because they could not enjoy it by themselves.
By themselves.
And that is where we get that. And I've been there. I've done it. I think I've cured myself of it a lot, but it's learned in childhood, A, and then B, because it's basically whenever, because I read a lot about this, when your parent is narcissistic and they make their entire world about them as a child, you have to use them as the mirror framework of what happened with my mom, where things were not okay until she was.
Yep.
And so then you think
Yep.
about partnership, and then you think about how in my world, maybe like where men are very good at breadcrumbing, or maybe they just don't know what they want. Everything stops in your world until they're okay.
Till they're okay.
And so then that's just a tragedy because now your parents are dominating the way you connect with relationships and with the way you connect with the world. And the reality is, it's like the forest, when a tree falls in the forest, but no one hears it, did it fall? If you achieve something really cool, this happened the other day. I almost texted you about something. I thought, she doesn't need to know that really. Like it was just a random excitement I had. But I still have a little bit of a knee jerk. Well, who do I tell about it? It's like, maybe nobody. Like, maybe you just enjoy it and move on. And that's still something I'm patterning and learning. But I have a lot of empathy for those people that they just wrap their entire world around someone.
Yep.
And I've done it.
And well, it's
But you
easy to
can't
do.
live like that.
You can't live like that, and I do understand what you're saying. My situation has some similarities, not all the way, But one thing that as you're speaking of this, I'm thinking of the one thing that I really did as a child, as I waited all day, every day, for my mom to hum. Now I know that sounds crazy, but in my world, if my mom hummed, and usually it would be when she was picking up things in the kitchen, or if that's the only time she would be really humming. She would be humming in the gardens and all that, and that was not happy work for her. But if she was in the kitchen and she was okay and she was feeling good and nothing was wrong with my dad,
Mm.
she would hum. So I would listen and pay attention every single day of my entire childhood to hear her hum. And if I could hear her hum, then I knew that for those 5 minutes, I was fine. And
Did that mean you would go out, like, because you would come out, or you would still stay away? You just knew, okay, at least something's all right.
as soon as I could hear her hum, I knew no matter what that I didn't have to look behind me. I didn't have to feel fear. I didn't have to
Mm-hmm.
feel that feeling of what's next. And I'm going to tell you, she only hummed probably, I don't know, maybe twice a month.
Mm.
But when I would hear it, it was like
Yes,
it was the most intoxicating sound to
I know
me.
exactly what you're talking. That's
It was intoxicating. It was like the whole world stood still and I was the new ballerina, because that's what changed in me, was the feeling of everything is fine for now.
and that feeling of being so far away from the sound, but being so attuned. Because I know exactly. I used to listen to how my mom was putting the dishes on the rack, to what degree of intensity, because that would let me know what the fuck I should be up to. We're doing all right. We made it
We made
somehow.
it. Oh
I
my
think we did,
gosh.
and I'm
We
happy
made
and I'm
it.
proud of us,
I
because
am
that
too.
was crazy.
Crazy stuff. It's a lot of crazy stuff, and maybe the crazy stuff that we've experienced helps us to see a little bit more clearly what you're going through. For
Hmm.
those that are suffering, and you're not alone. This has never been a solo experience, but making it within yourself a feeling of safety, and making a feeling of contentment within oneself is really a mission that we all should be on and working towards.
And I think we're doing our best.
We are doing our best. Oh my gosh. Well, I've been doing my best to keep my head where you can't see that I did laundry and didn't put it
Oh, I
away.
love it. But see, I told you about that at your house.
But
The meme where it's like, Jesus, please stop giving me your hardest like battles, and then it's a picture of Jesus. He's like, I'm just asking you to put your clean clothes away.
exactly. I love that. Oh, I know. I love that. That is so funny.
We're so guilty of it.
Well, in my defense, they're not my clothes, they're my son's
Oh,
clothes.
fair. See,
And he's
only
sleeping.
just now in my closet is there finally not the clean clothes mountain from, you know, purgatory. It took, and I got so, tired of myself, but I was just so tired also. So, you're digging through and you're like, I know these are all clean, but where's that particular work shirt? And I'm thinking
Exactly.
right next to all the hangers where they should be.
Right. Totally get it.
But say la vie.
Say la vie. Live a good life, people. It doesn't cost you extra to be happy.
No, it does not. And maybe next week we'll talk about mirrors and how to kind of make ourself our mirror. Because
Ooh,
that's
I like
something,
that.
it would solve a lot of anxiety for a lot of ladies and men, but women have a tendency to do it more. It's psychologically, we're the caretaker and the protector, and we receive energy, right?
Yep.
So we're constantly waiting for others. Men who deal with that, they wind up actually like building cabins in the woods. Like they just go away.
They do go away. That's the hunter energy in them. They go on their trek. Women are
Yes.
gatherers. They gather all the pain and the information they can store, and they either
Yeah.
combust or they make it through.
Isn't that fun?
Fun.
Well, I love you. I love you. I love
Love
you.
you,
And
love
I'll
you,
see
love
you
you.
next week.
Absolutely. Listeners, sign up. YouTube, please. We need your
Yes.
support.
It would be lovely. And we're so grateful for the support we have been getting. That's been
Yes.
amazing.
I'm very grateful and I'm very happy. Again, we do keep it live, we keep it real, we keep it raw. But first and foremost, we always keep it love first. And, even though sometimes we say some things that seem a little snarky, that's just the way we roll.
Yeah. And one of my students the other day, she said, "What's up with that posting schedule?" I said, "Ma'am, it's just us. I don't know what to tell." And she was joking, but I was saying, a lot of these other places they have production crews behind them. It's just you and me doing our best.
Doing our thing, doing our best.
So I love you, and I'll see you next week.
Absolutely. See you all next week. Bye.